Hey guys, welcome back to another top 10 Commander video. We're going to do something a little bit different because I know I've talked about this before. Competitive EDH, very different from casual EDH. It's a lot quicker. Some people think it's a little bit more interactive. I personally think it's just more interactive earlier on in the game. You have a lot of turn 1 plays, a lot of turn 2 plays compared to casual EDH. You're not really in a rush in casual, and you can usually expect to win no sooner than 10 turns, I would say. But in competitive EDH, most of these decks can consistently put out turn 3 or 4 wins, so you can expect to see a lot of cheap cards, a lot of good cantrips, tutors in this format. But we're going to go over here best budget cards for competitive EDH. Now, what I would consider budget in competitive EDH is going to be $10 and under, which I think is fair. I wouldn't consider $10 to be budget in casual EDH, of course, but when you consider there's things like Mox Diamond, Imperial Seal, Time Twister in this format, I think that's really generous. So let's start it off here. Number 10, we have Autumn's Veil. Now, before I go deep into this list, I should tell you guys, this is going to be cards that see play across the board in pretty much every single deck within the colors. They're going to probably play these cards in competitive EDH. Spells you control can't be countered by blue or black spells this turn, and creatures you control can't be the target of blue or black spells this turn, which is extremely powerful if you want to combo off and do your thing. Your opponents are pretty much helpless to stop you. They have to counter this first, and it's perfect for green decks in competitive EDH. So many times you want to combo and your opponent has an answer. They have a Force of Will, a Pact of Negation, or something that they don't necessarily need to save up mana to use. So this is a very powerful way of saying, nope, you're not stopping me this turn. I'm doing what I want to do. Number 9 is very similar, but I think it's better. Silence. Because it's dual purpose, it's not just the way that you use Autumn's Veil right before you decide to combo off. You can of course do that, but it's also good to stop your opponents from comboing off, or right in the middle of their combo, you can stop them dead in their tracks, play a silence, and then they're done. But obviously the most powerful way to use these cards is to do it right before you combo off with something like Doomsday or Food Chain. Anything that you have that is going to win you the game on that turn, this is usually what you want to play first. They have to answer it. If they don't answer it, they can't stop you. Number 8 is Chain of Vapor. You're going to see a lot of cards in this format that are very unique to this format, and you're not going to see them in a lot of other places, especially in casual EDH. I don't see a lot of people play this card. It's a 1 mana, bounce a non-land permanent back to its owner's hand. Yeah, they can sacrifice a land and copy it, choose new targets for it, but they're probably not going to do that, so it's most of the time going to be a 1 mana bounce spell, which is very efficient in this format. You're also going to see a lot of efficient removal, like Abrupt Decay in this format, cheap stuff. I just think Chain of Vapor is probably one of the best ones because it's one of the cheapest. And number 7 is kind of a tie between Elvish Spirit Guide and Semion Spirit Guide, but these cards just make or break the decks that they're in. Fast mana is so relevant, and I kind of wanted to put Dark Ritual in this spot as well, but you do actually see that card in casual EDH for mono black decks. It's actually really good, but these just give you free mana. I mean, they're in your hand. You have a free red mana or a free green mana, whatever you need, and in this format where you can potentially win turn 3 or 4, cards like these are so important. And again, most of these are super cheap. Simian Spirit Guide did just get a reprint. Number 6 is Noxious Revival. This is a card that doesn't really see that much casual EDH play. For what reason, I have no idea. 2 life to put a card from your graveyard on the top of your library, which is what you want to most of the time use it for after you use something like an Entomb. That way you can just draw into whatever you really want from your deck. It's basically like a vampiric tutor at that point. But it's also good graveyard hate for any of your opponents who are trying to target something in their graveyard. You can just put it on the top of their deck so they don't get it that turn, hopefully. Very good. Also should mention Regrowth. It doesn't see as much play in casual EDH as well, but it's a 2 mana sorcery version of Eternal Witness, which actually does see casual EDH play, but these cards are dirt cheap, and they honestly belong in pretty much every single green EDH deck if you want to play competitively. And then number 5, we have Mental Misstep, but this is really going to represent a lot of the weird counter spells that you're going to see in this format. I think Delay is another good one. I just think Mental Misstep represents the speed of this format the best. 2 life to counter a spell, CMC 1, is so relevant. You could of course use it on your opponent's Mental Missteps, which might actually be the best thing to use it on, but you could also use it on your opponent's Silence, their Noxious Noxious Revivals, or even better, use it on your opponent's mana vaults. That is really good in competitive EDH if you can counter their mana rock that's going to give them 3 mana their next turn. I think that's crazy. All at the cost of 2 life, so it's a turn 0 counterspell. Basically, you don't have to have any mana on your board, and you can answer something that they have. And sometimes answering their turn 1 play is better than answering their turn 2 play. And you stop their setup, you slow them down considerably. Very good card here. And again, not super expensive. Number 4, now we're going to start to see more of the competitive cards. I wouldn't say combo cards, but they definitely have their place in this format. Demonic Consultation. This card is, again, pretty cheap, but it sees play across the board, it seems, in every single black competitive EDH deck. You remove the top 6 cards of your library from the game. This is after you name a card, so it could be something like Food Chain or Doomsday, whatever you really need to win the game. And then you start revealing cards from the top of your library. You just keep removing them until you eventually hit the card that you named. Hopefully it is a Food Chain, hopefully it is a Doomsday or anything like that. But most of the time what you really want to do with this card is play Laboratory Maniac, which also sees play across the board in competitive EDH. This is one of the most popular 2-card combos in the entire format. You would obviously follow this up with something like a Gitaxian Probe or any sort of 1-mana cantrip that is capable of then drawing you a card, winning you the game. Because all you really have to do with Demonic Consultation is just name something crazy. You could just name Demonic Consultation, something you know you don't have another copy of in your deck, so you exile your entire library. Highly recommend you go the Laboratory Maniac route, because depending on getting the card that you need before you exile all the good stuff in your library is a pain, and this card can go so wrong so many times for you, so it's not the safest card by any means. You also see cards here like Tainted Pact and Plunge into Darkness, also really risky cards. They don't see as much play as Demonic Consultation, but I thought they were definitely noteworthy. And then number 3, we have the 1-mana cantrips like Gitaxian Probe. Gitaxian Probe doesn't really see that much casual EDH play, even though Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain definitely do. Gitaxian Probe represents this format really well. 2 life, draw a card. It's as simple as that. Like I said before, all you really need is a card like this, 4 mana, Demonic Consultation, Laboratory Maniac, and you've won the game. And it's also really cool if you can entomb Noxious Revival and then Gitaxian Probe, so you're really just paying 4 life and 1 mana to get whatever card you want to your hand. That's also a really nice combo there. But this really represents all of the fast card draw. It's all about speed, it's all about ramp, so having more ways to draw cards is really good. Mainly on this list because you don't really see Gitaxian Probe in casual EDHs often, and surprisingly it's still legal in Pauper for whatever reason. And then number 2, we have Necropotence. Necropotence is surprisingly not too expensive. The reprinted version from Eternal Masters, I think, is settling around $7. But again, under $10, I think it's budget for competitive EDH. Perfect card, sees play across the board in black decks in competitive EDH. Because all you really need to do is just play it. I don't know, pay 30 life. You get to add 30 cards to your hand. Yes, you will have to discard into exile, but you're ensuring yourself that the 7 cards you end up with are the very best cards, and you're probably going to win with those cards. So it's why this card is so amazing. It's why it sees play across the board. Black EDH decks, which most tier 1 decks I would say in the format use black and blue, so you're pretty much going to have to play a Necropotence. I'm not a big fan of it in casual EDH, and I've said this before. I very much prefer something that's not going to draw as much attention to you, like a Phyrexian Arena, but if you want to go balls to the wall, play as competitively as possible, you kind of have to win sooner than later. Necropotence is the way to go. Life isn't that big of a deal if you can win turn 4. Pretty good deal. And then the number 1 card I would say is probably the most budget friendly for competitive EDH, and that is AdNauseam. Holy crap, this is honestly, I would say, the best card in competitive EDH overall. You rarely ever see it in casual, almost never do. It's way too risky. Everybody's playing expensive cards, but it's basically like Dark Confidant, but you get to choose when you just want to stop. It's a 5 mana instant, so you do this at your opponent's end step. It's the best way to play it, and your deck is filled with cheap spells. It's filled with a lot of CMC 1, CMC 0 stuff like Mana Crypt, and of course your lands are CMC 0, so you don't have to worry about those. You're just going to keep getting your entire deck into your hand, and it's not going to cost you that much life. Now there's also the card Angel's Grace, which is commonly comboed with this card. It's not even that necessary to have that because you can still play without that card. And yeah, you're going to lose a lot of life, but still you're probably going to add 30 cards into your hand before you get anywhere near the danger zone and when it comes to losing a lot of life. Just a fantastic card. Instant speed means that you have your entire turn to work with whatever cards you drew at your opponent's end step. Have a whole hand, like 40 cards in it. You're probably going to win the game then. I find it very unrealistic to expect your opponents to have enough answers to stop what you're doing. You probably also have things in your hand like Force of Will, Pact of Negation that aren't going to cost you much in terms of mana, but they're going to get the job done. This card is just fantastic. Over the top crazy. Like I said, every single competitive EDH deck in tier 1 at least plays black or blue, and they play incredibly cheap cards, so AdNauseam isn't going to hurt you that much, and it's super powerful. Probably closest to $10, I would say, out of any card on this list, so it does kind of push the budget option to the max, but it's still much cheaper than a lot of the best cards in competitive EDH. I mean, a Power 9 card, Time Twister, which is like, I don't know, $1,500, and that's just for the revised edition. That's still legal. So yeah, considering this is only like $10, I'm not going to complain too much about it. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helped you understand competitive EDH and what I think are the best budget cards for the format that are going to help you win, help you play some more competitive, more interactive games earlier on. I'm Void. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Signing off. See you all next video.